number two, as I sit here, with no place to go, working on this with Seth and many others, I've got the TV on and I'm watching what other people are doing. I'm watching, yourself what Saturday Night Live did, what the late night talk shows are doing, and all these various things that people are trying. And sometimes I look at it and I go, yeah, I get that. And then sometimes I look at it and go, how the heck did they do that? All right? And I think that helps inform us in terms of, potential avenues we can go down to try things we haven't tried before.
We'll go to Colleen Payne and then Ben Strauss with the Washington Post.
Hey guys, I was just wondering about the Draftathon fundraiser for COVID relief efforts. How are you incorporating that into the broadcast?
You want me to start, Seth?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
The Draftathon is a huge initiative, I think, across everything we're doing. By the way, not just the raising money is important, obviously, and we're focused on that. That equally important is the message itself, the giving back message, and the we're all in it together message for so often. I mean, part of it's the messaging, too. Part of it's the tone we want to take. But it will figure prominently across the ESPN NFL Network broadcast. It'll figure prominently, I think, something about the ABC broadcast. We're going to announce shortly that we're going to do a whole bunch of things on social media and social streams that will hopefully drive that message, and also try to get out through more traditional communication channels. But I think you'll see it. And by the way, part of it, it's not just going to be a solicitation for money. Part of Draftathon is about saluting the first responders, the medical first responders, the people that are in grocery stores, all the stories that you've seen, and making sure that we give a proper salute and proper thank you to all the people that are not staying home every day and are keeping, not just people alive, but food on the table, that type of thing. And that's part of Draftathon as much as the money is, to be honest.
We'll go to Ben Strauss and then Barry Jackson with the Miami Herald.
Hey guys, I got two questions. First, you mentioned sort of the mask and having to get permission, from Connecticut government for sort of how to push ahead with this or do it so that it would be, within guidelines that they would approve. Can you sort of explain what those conversations were and, what information they said they needed, to bless this? And then second question is, when you getting all this video equipment set up for GMs, coaches at all these places, how does that work? I guess is there, how do you sort of make sure that that's done basically with IT folks, going to people's houses and getting set up that way? I guess that's what precautions do you take and how does that work?
Sure. I'll take the first one because the Connecticut part, and I'll let Mark handle the second one. On the Connecticut part, look, we're an essential business, as you guys know. Media is deemed that in I think in most states, but I know we are in Connecticut deemed that. So we've just kept close contact, obviously, with the Connecticut government as far as all of our shows that we've maintained and had on the air. And there's certain guidelines we've kind of the latest one was last week's, which I mentioned earlier, which said even in essential businesses, you need to be wearing masks. So, that was the latest one we got that we quickly, got. At the time we got, it's not masks so much as face coverings. A small note there, but we got bandanas to all of our staff quickly to do that immediately at ESPN. And, we've asked them if they have their own mask, they can wear their own mask, or we will provide bandanas and eventually masks when we get enough to do that. But no, the Connecticut government, I know, obviously it's way above my level, but that we've been in touch with them and they understand what we're doing, broadcasting still, and that, we're providing a service to the viewer and in the safest way possible, and we'll continue to follow every guideline that they put in. And, they've asked us to limit how many employees need to be in the building to the absolute essential ones. So that's, I guess that's part of the reason I haven't been in a couple of weeks. I'm not that essential at this point until next week, hopefully. But, we've done a great job on that. So I'll let Mark answer the Holmes question as well.
Yeah, for the homes, for the prospects, for the coaches, for the GMs, the goal is, and by the way, almost all of the hardware for this has already been sent out or is in the process of being sent out, and the goal is to have it be self-installed. They come with instructions for the prospects, certainly, and obviously we're going to provide tech support remotely, and we believe that the way we've got it set up will allow almost all, hopefully all, of the people involved to be able to set up what they need to set up and for us to be able to test it and work on the shot so they can do it at home. That's certainly true of all the prospects. For coaches and GMs and others, same idea applies. Is there the possibility that we may need to provide help in person? Yes. That we have very strict protocols to do that, and we certainly will not go into anybody's house who doesn't feel comfortable with that's not in there. But by and large, the vast majority of this, all of it, is designed so that hopefully we can have all these cameras installed and up and running based on people that are in their homes already doing it themselves. We're doing things like asking them to talk to their cable provider, trying to increase the bandwidth as much as possible so that the signals are stronger. So the goal is to try and self-install to a great degree.
Next up is Barry Jackson, and then Therese Taylor with Yahoo Sports.
Hi, two questions for Mark. Mark, have you and Seth talked about how often we're going to see your talent on air over the course of the 3 days? Rich, Daniel, Michael Irvin, obviously, Kurt Warner, are we going to see him a couple times a show, once every hour? And then with your information, and obviously not going to be on air, Mike and Ian and Tom, would we see them be more active on social media? Will they be allowed to tweet pics, which they otherwise obviously would not if they had an on-air role?
First one, Seth and I talked about how to use our respective talent a lot. But the idea is not how much time. The idea, going back to the beginning, is let's create the best show we can, which we're still doing, by the way. We're still formatting, and Seth's team's working hard on that. Formatting the best shows 3 days that we can, right, without regard to who's saying what to who. And then figure out how the best way to integrate that is, who should be saying what. But I feel confident, Seth, I think would back me up, that you will see Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah on the screen at the same time, okay? You will see Kurt Warner and somebody from the NFL. The idea is not to do, let's do an NFL Network segment, let's do an ESPN segment. The idea is to use the people and their various expertises, okay, at the proper time, regardless of which network they happen to work for. And we're working very, very hard on that. The second one is, look, I think that with Ian and Tom and Mike and some of the other people, yes, you're going to see them a lot across social media channels. We're working hard. You're going to see, like I said, a few announcements on some of the things we're doing, but they'll be all over that. As it relates to the picks are the picks, and that is one thing that hasn't changed. Nobody gets to tweet anything until the pick comes out of the commissioner's mouth. And we feel very strongly about that, not just for us, but for our other partners as well. So they can comment all they want once the pick is announced. Until then, no.
We'll go to Therese Taylor and then Paul Domowitch with the Philadelphia Inquirer. Therese, can you hear us? Please check your mute. Okay, let's go to Paul Domowitch with the Philadelphia Inquirer.
This one's from Mark. Mark, at what point in this whole process
did you realize it probably wasn't going to be doable to have a separate broadcast? And I mean, was building access at NFL Network and the films in Mount Laurel basically the biggest roadblock to having a separate broadcast? I don't think we really looked at it that way. I think we looked at it, as I said earlier, talking with Seth and then talking with our respective managements. We really looked at it and said, what's the best thing to do here for NFL fans? And as you've articulated, the lift here, technically, operationally, from a production standpoint, is extraordinary. Not just in terms of the overall, but in terms of doing so many things that we haven't done before. And to sit here and say, well, so that we can have two distinct broadcasts, we're going to do all of that twice. Which didn't make any sense. You sit there saying all that energy and all those resources and all that talent that we put into these shows would be better served bringing it together in a unified situation versus trying to do everything twice. That just, at the end of the day, once you get past the ownership quote part of it, the best way to do this was the way we're doing it now. It was less about the facilities, honestly, than it was about what was the best way to execute a very, very difficult show. Why make it two?
We'll go to Neil Bass with Newsday, followed by Mark Craig with the Star Tribune.
What can you guys tell us about exactly what the setup will be for the commissioner and how that's going to look in his house?
Not much. Not because I'm trying to keep it from you. Look, we're still working through it. Our events team and our design teams, the league design teams, working with obviously ESPN and the broadcasters. We're figuring all that out now. Literally, there are iterations of what it will look like, and is he standing, is he sitting, is he, all that sort of stuff. What's behind him, what's in front of him. All those things are coming into play and are still being worked on. I think we're getting there. But anything I told you now would probably be inaccurate 2 hours from now. So we're working it through.
We'll go to Mark Craig with the Star Tribune, and then Andrew Marchand with the New York Post.
It's something this massive and complicated, as you guys have explained. What's the biggest concern right now, and how much, obviously you couldn't do a test run with how exactly it's going to work, but how many test runs have you made, and what is your biggest concerns?
I think just all the technology is my biggest concern. I think, we can't do any test runs yet. We will do a bunch next week, towards the middle of next week, as close as we can to getting the draft on the air Thursday, so probably, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we would normally do some rehearsals anyway, and even if we were in Las Vegas, for instance, this year, but this will be a much greater rehearsal and to try to test all the technology. I think, we'd really like to still be able to talk to the prospects, to the players after they're getting drafted, to hear from them. On the ABC side, we had a lot of success last year with Tom Rinaldi interviewing player families to just, to change that broadcast a little bit, to make it a little more about the journeys and their families, and we want to try to do that again. So I think, with all the complications, I just want to make sure that we can still have some of those moments. I think the draft will work. Like the draft, the teams and the getting the picks in and all that's going to work, and that's going to be fine, and that's not really our main concern anyway. But I think just making sure that all these outlets that we have to try to get different shots of players and hear from players and teams, that we get all of that. I think that's just, kind of what keeps me up a little bit at night, but I do have great confidence, and that's what I keep saying is I know the people that are working on this, and I know, even though we're working with smaller crews and in extraordinary times, like, I think we're going to be fine, but, like, until we actually see it on the air, we can't be 100% sure.
Next up is Andrew Marchand, and then Heidi Tsang with the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Hey guys, I have two questions. I'm going to ask them one at a time. And if you said this at the beginning, I missed the first 3 minutes, so I apologize. So, just one of the big things about the draft always is the fans in terms of their reaction. Is there a way that you're going to try to incorporate the fans, and if so, how?
I'll take this. We are testing I guess we call it a virtual fan concept. Where there'll be a bunch of fans for each team individually in their homes, safe distancing, and can we aggregate that into a group? To be honest with you, we're still working it through, and by the way, that's a gazillion more feeds. So I don't know where it's going to finally end up, but it's not lost on us that the fans are usually a big part of the draft experience on site. And clearly we can't replicate that, but we are looking at a bunch of measures to try and figure out how we bring fans into the equation.
And we've asked, just one thing to add to that, Andrew, is we've asked at ESPN, you may have seen some of our talent tweeting this out, we've asked for some fan videos, for some fans to send in some videos of them in advance, their excitement over the draft, chants, whatever. So we plan on incorporating those from time to time into the broadcast where appropriate. So we are cognizant of it, like Mark said. We've talked about some different ways. That is something that we can't replicate what Nashville had last year, or all the years of Radio City, or all the reactions of the fans. So we know we can do a great job analyzing the players, telling you where they fit into their teams, debating whether it was a good or bad pick. But you're right, the energy and the fans, that's something that we're never going to be able to replicate.
Okay, and my second question, I'll start with Mark, if you want to chime in as well, feel free. But Mark, how would you define success for just the first day? Let's just start with that. How would you define success for that day for you guys?
Well, I think obviously there's a couple of different metrics. One metric is were we able to execute all the draft picks? Number one. Were we able to tell the stories around those draft picks and what they mean to the team? Saying that is similar to past drafts. We're executing it a little differently, but were we able to execute the picks, and were we able to tell people what it all means? The second thing, as I mentioned before, is making sure that we set the proper tone starting Thursday night at 8, and make sure people understand that we know that the draft hopefully will provide, as Seth said, provide a distraction or some type of compelling content for people to see. That said, that we understand that there's a much bigger environment out there, and how do we do it, communicating that and weaving that into the broadcast as important elements of getting back and understanding that we're all in a much larger thing together. That, to me, will be the biggest factor in success.